All right, hey everybody. This is going to be your trade ideas for this upcoming week of 9/13 through 9/17. All right, which is your quad witching week because quad witching is on the 17th, but we may have already started feeling the effects of quad witching. So first up is going to be Disney. It's only going to be 5 stocks because ain't no telling how this week is going to play out. All right, it could be very bearish, it could be up and down, or it could be bearish at first and go bullish, or bullish at first and go bearish. Don't really know. All right. So this is going to be a great case of letting everything open and seeing what plays out. All right. But we're going to look at Disney. All right. And so with Disney could either go 2-2 continuation, or it could fall and go 2 down. All right. So we'll mark the high, mark the low. This would be our price target for puts on the week. And then for calls, we'll go with up here. All right. Yeah, because that's the one that's untouched, the pivot that's untouched. So edit properties, entry, puts, week. All right. Entry, calls, week. Do a little something different. Entry, calls, week. All right. PT1, calls, week. PT1 puts on the week. Especially how like after everything like really dumped late Friday. So it's like we don't know what we about to get. So again, on the week, we're either going to do a continuation. It could just be an inside week, or it could go 2 down, all right, in reverse. And as you can see, Friday, it already started a reversal with a 2 up, 2 down reversal. So we'll mark the high, mark the low, because anything can happen. Things could gap up and then fall. Let's see, entry puts, daily. Also, make sure you follow the Twitch to get live charting during the week, entry calls daily. All right. And then PT1 for puts actually is going to be, what is the low of this one? 183.92. Technically, this would be PT1 on the daily, but then after this is the week entry for puts. But yeah, make sure you follow the Twitch. PT1 puts daily. It's very helpful. There's a lot of people who find it helpful, and then you get to see things real time, as well as if you're not familiar with the strat, if you actually click on my channel name and go to like my main channel, you'll see that there's an intro to strat video right there, as well as, you know, if you obviously you should be in Wealth Squad. Go to Market Facts and Resources, look for a post by me that says strat resources and tutorials. All right. And then for calls, if it goes calls, technically the entry for calls on the week would be the first price target. All right. Now let's see if we got a 4-hour early entry, which we probably don't, unless it's for calls. And we have a 4-hour earlier entry for calls. Entry calls 4 hour. Now for the people who's like, all right, what's the difference between the daily entry, the 4-hour entry, and the week entry? The lower the time frame, the earlier entry. So obviously there would be an earlier entry for calls on the 4-hour than there would be for puts. There's no earlier entry for puts on the 4-hour. So basically the mindset is, all right, let's say it went calls. This 4-hour entry, what we're hoping is that it'll keep going and trigger the daily entry, right? And with options, it's entry matters. It's all about your entry, right? So the cost of the contract at 186.06 is going to be different than the cost of the contract at 187.1. So what you're hoping with the 4-hour entry is that it triggers the daily entry. Can you add if you want to, if it hits the daily entry or hits the higher time frame entry? You can, but you can also just look at it like more confirmation to stay in the trade, more so than, you know, scaling up, unless you just want to scale up. All right. But I don't know if you want to scale up. If let's say you got filled at $1 at the 4-hour entry, and then it hits the daily entry, and now it's $2. You might not want to scale up that high. All right. So you also got to keep in mind how much you're moving the contract if you scale up. And then for Disney, the contracts we basically would look at for puts would be, I would say the 180 put if it goes puts. For calls, I would say probably the 190 or like 187.5 calls or something like that. Let me look at it. Let's see. Disney. Yeah, we can look at for puts, we can look at the 180 put or like the 182.5 put. If you want to get in the money as soon as possible, you see it's 19,000 people at the 180 put. Or you can look at the 190 call or 187.5, which you see is 13,000 people at the 190 call. So it's definitely more people on the put side with Disney 180 put 19K. Oh, wow. All right. Next is going to be PayPal. So let me clear all this out. So with PayPal, be looking for on the week, it would be a 2 up, 2 down reversal. All right. So entry puts on the week is going to be at 283.33. Entry puts week. All right. And then your entry for calls on the week is going to be 296.7. And again, this week you want to tread very lightly. This is probably a week where you take profit at 30, 50% and just move on or look for a re-entry. This week is going to be rather safe than sorry week for real. So PT 1 puts week. All right. And then PT 1 calls week. All right. So your entry for calls on the week is 296.7. Your entry for puts on the week is 283.33. All right. PT1 for puts on the week is 279.08, and PT1 for calls on the week is 310.16. And this probably would take a while to get there. So if it does go calls, you might want to like go with next week's expiration if you really want to seek out this, or even another week out, just because it will have to reverse from all the way down here. All right. Go to the daily. It would just be a 2-2 continuation. All right. So entry puts daily. And that's entry is going to be 284.11. All right. And then the entry for calls on the daily is going to be 289. Entry calls daily. All right. And so PT1 on the daily for puts is going to be the week entry. And then after that, hope to get to 279. All right. Let me go to the 4-hour. The 4-hour, there's an earlier entry for calls, mostly only calls. Entry calls 4-hour. The entry is going to be 287.2. All right. So with this, what we would look at, unless it really just dumps, I'm going to mark this one as PT2 for puts, because just in case, PT2 puts daily. If it really dumps, potentially could hit 273, but mostly we're probably going to look at the 280 put. I mean, you could go 280, 282.5. It looks like a lot of people are at the 270. It's 13,000 people at the 300 call. Yeah, so I would say look at the 280 put to get in the money as soon as possible, because let's say it dumps immediately Monday and it finishes strong like how this candle is, then you might can hold that into the next day if it keeps dumping, if it wants to keep dumping. All right. Or you can just, kind of this week, honestly, you want to look at everything as a day trade, almost kind of, unless you go like further out. But because we don't know what to expect this week, really. But yeah, so I'm gonna say the 280 put for PayPal, and if it happens to go calls this week, depending on how much it dropped, I would just say go with the 285. Go with the 285, and then it keeps going in your favor. Go with the 290, because what could happen is it could dump more and then reverse and go up. You don't want to buy the 290 because it might not get to 290 this week. So it'd be safer to get in the money as soon as possible. All right. So the 280 put or the 285 call. Next is going to be crowd. All right. So with crowd, let me go to the week. It would be a 2-2 continuation. I'm not going to mark the high crowd right now. Matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and mark it. So let me see. Low is 260.57. All right. So this is going to be your entry for puts on the week. Entry, puts, week, which is going to be the same as the daily entry. And then your entry for calls on the week is going to be 279.8 if that happens. Which I'm not thinking it's going to happen. I think this is one of the ones that really want to dump. All right. And so PT1 on the PT1 on the week for puts is going to be 239.31. PT1 puts week. All right, go down to the daily. And as you can see, that's below the gap. So our PT1 for puts on the daily is going to be 258.42. T1 puts daily. And I think after it gets into this gap, it's probably going to free fall. And then this right here would be the gap fill. 246.81 be the gap fill. All right. Then if it just so happens, let me clear this one out. If it just so happens to go calls, your entry on for calls on the daily is 269.7. All right. And then for a 4-hour entry, there's not an earlier entry for puts, but there's an earlier entry for calls. Entry calls 4 hours. Oops, what the heck? Entry calls 4 hours. All right, and for crowd, what we'd be looking at, I would say just to go ahead and get in the money as soon as possible. Probably go with like the 260 put. Some people like this 250 put. I would say go with the 255 put or the 250 for puts. So 250 or 255. And then if it goes calls, you can go like the 270. Yeah, 270 call. Next, we got HD. All right, so with HD, what we'd be looking at would be a 2-up continuation or a 2-up, a 2-2 continuation or a 2-up, 2-down reversal. All right. Entry. Your entry for puts on the week is going to be 326.9 entry puts week. And then your entry for calls on the week is going to be 335.23 entry. All right, PT1 is going to be for calls, it's going to be 338.55. And then PT1 on the week for puts is going to be 320.28. I mean, week. Oops. All right. On the daily, the entry for calls on the week is the same, but your entry for puts is going to be 331.45 entry puts. All right. And then PT1 for puts is going to be 330.87. I would say with this, probably would go with the 330 puts or like the 325. And then for calls, go with the 335 calls. It's a little bit of an earlier entry. So PT1 puts, I mean, not PT1, entry puts 4 hour is 331.86. And then your calls is 335. That's your entry for calls. So with that, you can go with the 335 or 340 for HD calls. But for puts, I would go with like the 330 put or like the 325 put. And then last is Facebook. So at Facebook, inside week, mark the high, mark the low. First PT, it's going to be the all-time high. Then after that, you're just going to really be guessing entry calls week. Because the all-time high is 384.33. So you really could probably just go with the 385 call or something like that. Entry puts week. So PT1 for puts and then PT2 for puts. PT1 for puts is 370.52 on the week. PT1 puts week. And then PT2 for puts on the week is going to be 359.1. PT2 puts week. All right, boom. Go to the daily. Now, let me mark this as PT1 week. So yeah, if it goes calls, I mean, it'll be coming from 378. You can go with like the 380 call for Facebook. All right. But right now we're looking like we're about to get a 1, 2 up, 2 down reversal on the daily. So entry puts daily. And then PT1 technically would be the entry on the week, but I'll go ahead and mark these as your in-between price targets. PT1 puts daily. And then PT2 puts daily. All right, and then we go down to the 4 hour. As you can see, there's no earlier entry for puts, but there's an earlier entry for calls on the 4 hour, and that would be 382.55. True calls. All right. And that's going to be your trade ideas. And like I said, for Facebook, you can go with like the 380 call because it would be coming from way down here. You go with the 380 call, like the 385, because what might happen is Facebook might go a little bit lower before reversing back to the upside. And you will definitely have an earlier entry for calls. You don't necessarily have to wait till it gets all the way back up to here. That's why I say learn the strat inside and out, and you will, like, when things don't go the way at market open and stuff like that, and within the first hour that we think it would go, you will have like better entries and earlier entries just off of reversals that happen during the market. So always be mindful of that. All right. So Love y'all. Spread love. And if you need anything, just DM me, and I'll catch you later.